My name is Justin Randolph Thompson. I'm a visual artist and the director of the Recovery Plan, which is a research center dedicated to Black history in the context of Italy. In terms of my main project, I think that the Recovery Plan is one aspect of what I work on, and that's about really designing and producing templates for reflecting upon Black history and Black cultural production within the context of Italy. And it's an outgrowth of my work as an artist. In my work as an artist right now, the main project I'm working on is called Surveying Gravity. It's a project dedicated to rethinking what it means to commemorate, to create monuments to different legacies, and really thinking about what it means to care for legacies. This is something that comes directly out of the context of being in Italy and being surrounded by a history of monuments that are really dedicated to ideas of permanence that can be understood through also a very violent lens, and really rethinking other ways of doing that kind of work.
Is there a subtle link between being an artist, a cultural facilitator, and an educator?
I like to say that I'm always wearing the same hat. So in my role as an educator, as a father, as an artist, as a cultural facilitator, I'm actually always walking the same path. Because I think that when we really break down what we do, the bigger context in which we're working tends to overlap. And so my work is really dedicated to rethinking memory and preservation, conservation, and really expanding upon the ways in which we like to care for things. So I think that that's something that extends across all of those. And if you're really doing creative work, you don't really need to cipher yourself off into these different categories in order to sort of find a way.
Can you imagine if art history was rewritten to include African American artists or women? I mean, including all the people who are basically excluded at the moment. What would happen? What would be the impact on society?
I think that, when it comes to reflecting upon the art historical canon and the exclusions of the canon, every canon has more exclusions than inclusions. It's just sort of the nature of things. Every history speaks to an extreme minority rather than some idea of majority. And I think that when you start to recognize that, you understand the impact on society. I think it's important to reflect upon it because the way in which we preserve and care for history can feel like it falls into place right in the times we're talking about, when ultimately it's been constructed in a period much later in date. And so what it means to really reflect on things with the positionality of where we are today and our considerations for those things, I think that's really key.
Can be music a form of social activism?
In regards to music as a form of social activism, I think that music has always been at the heart of social activism. Music has been a catalyst for a lot of social movements. Music sort of sets a certain tone, and I think that the fact that it's something that can provide a certain energetic charge, a spiritual charge, I think that that's something that allows it to sort of really travel in a way and not need to communicate through those avenues of speech that might not actually reach everyone. So it's another kind of vehicle, I think. And I think it's important to also embrace the ways in which more abstract forms of music, I'm thinking of jazz specifically, carry a notion of activism through what is just simply Black thought. So allowing something to kind of move outside of those ciphers is something that's a little bit more conservative in creating that space to breathe. In terms of a statement that represents me, I've been using a quote from Erykah Badu for a while now. She says, "You won't be naming no building after me to go down dilapidated." And she ends that by saying, "My name won't be misstated." And so I think in terms of something that represents me, I really like to think about what representation looks like versus presence in different ways in which we might be able to sort of cater to and care for legacies outside the sort of more conservative standards that have been defined for us by our historical canons.